Who would have thought? The source of the zombie virus turned out to be a stray dog. It all started when a woman, just being kind-hearted, decided to feed a stray dog by the side of the road. But the very next day, she noticed large red rashes breaking out all over her body. Her boyfriend, while checking himself out in the mirror, also spotted red patches spreading across his waist. At first, they thought it was just a simple allergic reaction, nothing serious. But that night, as they were getting ready for bed, the boyfriend suddenly started coughing uncontrollably. In less than half a day, those red rashes had turned into festering wounds, with his flesh rotting away. Jessica, now panicked, immediately called for an ambulance. But neither of them realized at that point they had already been infected with the zombie virus. They still naively believed that once they got to the hospital, everything would be fine. But the ambulance never made it to the hospital. Instead, it pulled into a dark, abandoned warehouse. Inside the vehicle, Jessica started to sense something was off. She was just about to do something when the back doors suddenly swung open. Two people in full hazmat suits yanked the doors open. Before she could even react, they pulled a black hood over her head and dragged her out of the van. Jessica was locked in a small, pitch-black room. She screamed and shouted for help, but no one answered. Aside from someone occasionally sliding in food, she was completely ignored. After a few days, Jessica began to calm down. She started observing everything closely, and that's when she realized, every time someone brought food, the room outside her door was completely dark. That day, the moment the door cracked open, Jessica quietly hid in the corner of the room. And just as the person stepped inside, she suddenly lunged forward, making a break for it. But the other person reacted fast. Just as she was about to reach the door, they tackled her hard to the ground. And in the chaos, she managed to rip off the person's gas mask. The moment the mask came off, the man clearly panicked and started backing away quickly. Sensing an opportunity, Jessica grabbed a broken light bulb from the floor and prepared to defend herself. The man tried to stop her again, but before he could get close, Jessica spun around and slashed his neck with the jagged glass. Jessica didn't have time to wipe the blood from her face. She got up and ran. As she passed by a side room, she caught a glimpse of her boyfriend. He was still alive, or at least moving, but his body was horribly decayed, almost beyond recognition. Despite that, Jessica still felt a surge of compassion and rushed over to try and help him. But the door was locked with a keypad. There was no way to open it. Suddenly, alarms blared through the building. Jessica knew she was out of time. Heartbroken, she made the painful decision to leave him behind and escape on her own. Jessica carefully made her way back home, washed the blood off her body, and got ready to change clothes and leave. But just as she was about to head out the door, she heard footsteps outside. Instantly, she sensed something was wrong, and sure enough, two large men had already broken into the house. Both were armed and looked deadly serious. Left with no other choice, Jessica quietly set down her bag and slipped out through the window. Night fell quickly. Jessica found an old pickup truck parked by the roadside and hid inside. She had no idea where the truck was going, just that she needed to get far away. It wasn't until the next morning that she finally woke up. She saw the driver get out to use the restroom, giving her a brief window to move. Just as she found a piece of bread in the truck and was about to eat, the driver returned. Realizing it was too risky to stay hidden any longer, Jessica quickly left the truck and headed into a nearby forest. Using a map she'd snatched from the truck, she set her sights on Mexico. To avoid being caught on surveillance cameras, she stuck to back roads and trails. When exhaustion hit, she took a break in an abandoned farmhouse to rest. Even though she was extremely cautious, avoiding every camera she could, it still wasn't enough. Police eventually picked her up through a satellite tracking system. At this point, Jessica had already been infected with the virus, but she hadn't mutated. That meant one thing. There was a chance her body was producing antibodies. The next morning, Jessica woke up inside the barn on the farm, her stomach growling with hunger. She quietly snuck into a nearby farmhouse, hoping to find something to eat. But her movement caught the attention of the farm owners. Luckily, the owners turned out to be a kind-hearted couple. They could tell Jessica was in some kind of trouble, and not only did they offer her food without asking questions, but when they heard she was trying to head north, they even offered to drive her part of the way. When they noticed the strange odor coming from Jessica, the couple gently suggested that she clean herself up first. While Jessica was washing up in the bathroom, the farmer, trying not to waste any food, ate the leftover hot dog she hadn't finished. No one could have guessed that this seemingly harmless act would soon lead to disaster. After Jessica finished freshening up, the couple drove her to the edge of a wooded area up north. They even packed her some clothes and supplies for the road. Their generosity toward a total stranger was heartwarming, almost too good to be true. But as we all know, kindness doesn't always guarantee a happy ending. Not long after Jessica left, The husband started coughing. Meanwhile, the police had dispatched a special agent named Elsa to track down Jessica. The department didn't fully brief her on how dangerous Jessica really was. They only told her that Jessica had contracted the Ebola virus. Elsa herself suffered from ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Her muscles were weakening day by day, and she now relied on a cane just to walk. But despite her condition, she was tough as nails. She refused to back down and insisted on staying active in the field. Her investigation soon led her to the farm Jessica had passed through. Suiting up in full protective gear, Elsa arrived at the farmhouse. Inside, the place was a mess, completely abandoned. The couple was nowhere to be seen, but there were bloodstains left in the sink. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of something, or someone, darting past in the distance. Instinct kicking in, she followed the figure, which led her to a nearby barn. But when Elsa stepped inside, what she saw froze her in place. Standing there was the mutated wife, no longer human, fully turned into a zombie. The creature lunged at her. Elsa reached for her pistol, but before she could draw it, the zombified husband appeared from behind and grabbed her in a tight grip. Thankfully, Elsa kept her cool. In one swift move, she turned and shot the zombie in the head, dropping him instantly. The wife came charging in right after, but Elsa didn't hesitate. Another clean shot, another undead threat eliminated. After everything that had happened, Elsa finally began to realize Jessica wasn't just some ordinary Ebola patient. Her superior could no longer keep the truth under wraps. He had no choice but to come clean. As it turned out, the whole thing started with a major lab accident at a pharmaceutical company. A new virus had leaked, a horrifying one. It caused the human body to rot and stripped away all sense of rationality. Although the lab was quickly sealed off and the staff contained, there was one problem. One of the lab workers' dogs had escaped, and that dog had come into contact with Jessica and her boyfriend. The boyfriend was already dead, but somehow Jessica had survived. That meant she might carry something incredibly valuable in her body, an antibody to the virus. No matter what, they had to find her. Meanwhile, Jessica had no idea she was infected. She ended up at a small bar, low on food and supplies after her time on the run. She was just hoping to land a job, something simple, maybe with a meal included. The bar owner, Molly, was a kind-hearted woman. She noticed Jessica's heavy accent and the exhaustion written all over her face. Without asking too many questions, Molly decided to take her in and give her a chance. That night, Molly brought out a bottle of liquor, and the two sat down to chat. And just like that, a bond started to form. Eventually, they clinked glasses and shared a drink. And with that simple gesture, the tragedy had already begun. Kind-hearted Molly knew Jessica had nowhere to go, so she brought her home for the night. But the next morning, when Jessica knocked on Molly's bedroom door, there was no answer. Concerned, she searched the living room and found a spare key. She slowly opened the door, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Molly was lying on the bed, covered in blood. Her body was already halfway decomposed. Jessica stumbled back in shock, completely terrified. She had no idea how this could have happened, how Molly could end up just like her boyfriend. Panicked, Jessica rushed to pack her things and get out of there. But just as she was about to leave, she heard a noise upstairs. She crept back up, and to her horror, saw Molly moving. She was alive, or rather, no longer human. Molly had turned into a zombie. She lunged at Jessica, who grabbed the nearest thing she could, a frying pan, and started swinging with all her strength. After a few brutal hits to the head, Jessica managed to escape. She collapsed in the hallway and broke down in tears. Now she finally understood why those people had locked her up. And then she noticed something else. Clumps of her hair had started to fall out. Turns out, she wasn't symptom-free after all. The virus was just taking its time. Meanwhile, Elsa, following her investigation, arrived at Molly's house. She knocked for a long time, but no one answered. Through the window, Elsa was shocked by what she saw. Molly had already turned into a zombie, bloodied and lying lifeless on the floor. Quickly donning her protective gear, Elsa realized she was close to the Mexican border, and she suspected that Jessica might be nearby. She carefully began searching the area and eventually found Jessica in a nearby warehouse.
You are a healthy carrier for this thing, which means you're spreading it, even though you're not sick.
But when Jessica turned around, Elsa was taken aback. Jessica had lost all her hair, and her skin was already starting to rot.
Don't take another step. I don't want to sue you, but I will.
Wounded and disoriented, Jessica no longer trusted Elsa. She immediately tried to flee. Despite her limited mobility, Elsa chased after her. To steady her trembling hands, she had to remove her protective mask and hold her gun with both hands. Elsa fired, hitting Jessica in the thigh. Though injured, Jessica continued to try and escape, but Elsa was already right behind her. Elsa tried to convince Jessica to come back with her to the lab. She promised they'd find a way to create a cure. But Jessica didn't want to return to that dark little room. She knew everything that had happened wasn't truly her fault. But still, so many people had died. All she ever wanted was freedom, to see more of the world. After saying that, she turned and ran. Not wanting to risk the virus spreading any further, Elsa had no choice but to pull the trigger. She thought that would be the end of it. The pharmaceutical company destroyed all records related to the virus. But just a few days later, one of Elsa's friends came to visit her. And after spending time with her, he suddenly began to cough violently.